Hello and welcome to Share the Stories podcast, episode 3. And today we have a special guest on the show. Her name is Sara Fiori. Sara, do you want to say hello?
Hey, thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm so excited that you're here today. Sara's actually somebody I've known for 6 or 7 years now. And over that time, we've developed a great relationship, great friendship together. I've known her husband a little bit longer, and we've had a great friendship as well. Sara's and Chris, they both worked out at FFP, and then Sara actually became a coach for a year or two at FFP. And so, yeah, we've had some good times in fitness together. Me and her husband used to work out at 4:30 in the morning, and so I feel like if you work out with somebody at 4:30 in the morning, you develop some special kind of bond together. And so, me and Chris, we're great friends as well. And so yeah, it's a little bit about Sara. I think she has an incredible story, and I'm so excited for you guys to hear that today. So, Sara, if you want to go ahead and kick us off with a little bit a background about you and who you are.
Okay, sure. Yep. So, born and raised in small town Arkansas, and went to college in Missouri. My parents got divorced when I was about 9 or 10 years old, and that's when I started. Kind of a recurring theme in my life has been fitness and exercise, and that's kind of when that started to take shape. I used to go power walking with my grandma. So this was back in the '80s with neon and slouch socks and all that good
Awesome.
stuff. So totally cool, of course.
Yeah.
But yeah, I grew up, went to college in Missouri. I lived in Missouri for 14 years, and jumped into right into state government service. Worked in that industry for about 8.5 years in the
Okay, I want to
oh,
pause you just
sorry,
for a
sorry.
second,
Okay.
if you don't
Yep.
mind. Yeah, yeah. So you mentioned you were born in
Yeah.
Arkansas, then you moved to Missouri, and you went to college in
Yeah.
Missouri. Where did you go to school
I went
at?
to Columbia College. It's in
Okay,
Columbia, Missouri. So
Columbia, Missouri.
yeah.
Okay, and where is that located in the state of
It's in the
Missouri?
middle. It's the capital city. Actually, it's
Oh,
near
okay,
this capital city. Jefferson City is
near
the
the campus.
capital.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, it's
Okay,
also University of Missouri is there. This is a much smaller college that I went to.
okay, okay.
Yeah.
And small town Arkansas. How small was this
It was
town?
1,100
Were you?
people. It was a very tiny, like my high
Oh,
school
yeah.
class had 46. So we were a very
Wow.
small, tight knit community.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had 40 something people in my graduating
Oh, wow.
class, but
Really?
I was from a much larger area. Hampton Roads, obviously, it's a much larger populated area. But I went to a private school, and that's why it was so small. But so most of the listeners, I think, are either from like Virginia area or like LA area right now, and so they're pretty highly populated
Right.
places. So like, what's different about an 1100 populated city?
So
What is that like?
yeah, so the difference, everybody knew everybody. When I was growing up, I literally could do if I was doing something I wasn't supposed to be doing, my mom knew before I
Hmm.
got home. But it was very, like I said, tight knit. Everybody kind of knew everybody. You knew the stories. You knew your
Hmm.
neighbor. You knew your neighbor's neighbor. And it just we didn't even have a stoplight. To this day, they don't have a stoplight. I don't even think we
Wow, no
no,
stoplight.
I don't even think they have a yield sign there. There's nothing to yield to.
Wow,
So
that'd be great.
it's sweet. It was sweet. I mean, I always wanted to live somewhere bigger, and I do now. But thinking back, it was very sweet to grow up. Um, it was loved on. You're loved on from the day you're born till the day you leave. So yeah,
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome.
yeah.
Yeah, sorry for that little side story. I
Oh,
had to
good.
get a little bit more detail about Arkansas and Missouri. I've never been there,
Oh
but
yeah.
I've seen photos and it looks very pretty. It looks,
Oh yeah.
mountainous
Hmm.
and yeah,
It is
awesome.
very
Yeah.
beautiful. That's why I had loved being outside and being out in nature so much. It's
Hmm.
beautiful. It's country. So yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Awesome. And so you went to college in Missouri and you said you started working Where were you working at?
So I went into government service. I worked for the Missouri Department of Labor,
Hmm.
and like I said, that's what that meant was I adjudicated unemployment claims. And so, if you've
Hmm.
ever been unemployed, you know that you're usually not happy. And so, if you have to call the unemployment
Yeah.
office, it's not for a good reason. So I
Hmm.
learned a lot. I've heard everything,
Yeah.
and just always amazed at some of the things that people would do to get fired from their jobs. It's still some of the funniest stories I've ever heard. But I would sit there every day, and I would think, oh, there's got to be more to life than this. And I would
Hmm.
sometimes I'd even take my journal to work, and I would write, and I would think that there's something more. How I know there's a life waiting for me somewhere. I just have to show up for it. So it was, yeah, I had a lot of time to sit and daydream and pray and hope for the future and what the future would bring because I knew I wanted my life to be bigger and much different.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, um, when you were working there, you said you were thinking about something different, and like, did you ever take a step to make that happen? Like,
I
what did?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I did. So I in 2009 I had never really traveled on my own, so I took a 2 week vacation and I went to Florida. I love the beach. I've loved the beach probably since birth, and so I spent 2 weeks there, kind of just reflecting. I'd get up at sunrise and walk the sunrise on the beach, and
Hmm.
uh, just I did a lot of dreaming. I needed quiet space where I could dream and think about what I wanted and
Yeah.
how things could take shape. And they really did. I mean, that there were a lot of seeds planted, at least in my mind and my heart, during that trip where I knew that things were going to change and they were going to change pretty not rapidly, but definitely in a major way in my life.
Hmm. And so you're saying like that period of time, that 2 week vacation before, that was kind of like a turning point where you were able to start making some, decisions to alter your life path a little bit. Is that kind of what you're
Absolutely.
saying? Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And would you say that's kind of like due to the alone time, the quiet time, the time just to withdraw and think and
Yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
cool.
I'm a huge fan of that now, of
Yeah.
quiet and solitude, even meditation sometimes, just
Hmm.
to quiet everything down. But when you take yourself, out of your normal environment, especially if you don't have
Yeah.
anybody that you know with you. I mean, I'd
Hmm.
never even been out to eat by myself, and so I took this trip. And you learn a lot, you grow a lot just
Oh
in a
yeah.
short time being by
Hmm.
yourself. And but plus, when you shut the world off, I think that's when you hear God. You can really hear God speak in
Yeah.
your life, and it was
Yeah.
huge during that time.
That's awesome. Yeah, I've never taken like a full on vacation by myself, but
Hmm.
I'll take days where I'll take the whole day. I'll go to the mountains where there's no cell phone
Yeah.
reception, nobody can get a hold of me, and it's just me. I don't put headphones in, nothing. It's just I'll go for a hike, go for a run, just spend like all day out there, just me, myself, and God, and just
Yes.
let like it's just a great time to
Oh
disconnect.
yeah.
And when you're able to disconnect like that and completely put everything away, I feel like it allows you to make some of those big decisions in your life like that. It allows you
Absolutely.
to clear your head, to think clearly, to like allow God to speak to
Oh
you.
yeah.
And so yeah, I definitely see how that could
Oh
been
yeah.
life changing for you, especially
Absolutely.
yeah 2 weeks by
Oh
yourself
yeah.
and next to the beach. The beach is a great
Oh
place to
yeah.
let that happen too. Mountains, beach, any of the nature
Yes,
stuff, I feel like is amazing.
I
So
agree.
so yeah, so what happened next?
So actually, I went back home, and like I said, that was in 2009. It was in 2010. It was over a year later, but I was able to leave the job with Department of Labor and start
Hmm.
putting down, you know, at least a foundation for the next step. I wanted to get out of Missouri. I wanted to get to the
Hmm.
coast somewhere, probably Florida, and
So East Coast.
yeah, to the East Coast
Yeah.
somewhere.
Okay.
And so
Yeah.
yeah, just started to dream about that, and it went into a different job that would get me to Florida, and along the way, I got into a relationship that was not the healthiest one and kind of
Hmm.
segued everything for a little while.
Hmm. Mhm.
Yeah.
So when you say relationship, what type of relationship are you talking
So
about?
I had met a person, I met a man, and it was, as things are, there's always that honeymoon period, and everything's great, everybody's
Mhm.
nice, on their best behavior, and
Yeah.
but the last 2 years of the relationship were it was abusive, it was highly abusive. It was
Mhm.
it's very detrimental to me and to my spirit, and
Mhm.
when you're in that situation, it kind of strips your self-esteem, and you just kind of think, well, it's not that bad. You start to rationalize, you think, well, it's not
Mhm.
that bad. At least I'm not alone.
Mhm.
And it got to a point where it was just kind of horrible. It was horrific. And so I, actually, again, people talk about hearing God speak, and I heard him speak. I heard him speak about 2 months before I got out of the relationship, but I stuck it out. And then, actually, of all things, it was on December 8th. I won't go into what year, but it was several years ago. But it was on December 8th,
Mhm.
and I heard him say, "Get out and get out now." And
Mhm.
so I, called my family and friends, and they rallied around and helped me. I did not feel safe being alone, and so
Mhm.
I stayed with some friends for quite a while, for about 6 or 8
Mhm.
weeks,
Yeah.
and it just kind of started the process of starting over.
Mhm.
That's about as much as I could say about it. When
Yeah.
you are stripped down to nothing, or at least feel like you are, and you don't feel like you're worth very much, you have to lay a new foundation for that. And being
Yeah.
again loved on by friends and family was
Mhm.
huge during that period.
Mhm. Mhm. Thanks so much for sharing that,
Sure.
Sarah. I know that was tough, and I'm sure that was a tough time, like you were saying,
Yeah.
and I think, but I think a lot of people can relate to that in some way, and some people might find themselves in similar situations, and
Yeah.
they themselves are like wondering, what the next step is, like how do I start to rebuild my life,
Yeah.
like you have,
Yeah.
and you mentioned that your friends and family were a big part of that.
Hmm.
And so could you just, uh, for our listeners, just tell us a little bit more, maybe if you're willing, if you're comfortable,
Sure.
about how your friends and family were helpful for you in getting out of that relationship and transitioning to the next step in your life?
They first of all, they showed my mom showed up right away, and she was just there
Mm-hmm.
when I had to end everything, and so she was there just to make sure that nothing happened. And then we just instantly left and went to a friend's home, and I stayed there with the friend for several weeks, while I tried it, because I just did not want to be alone. I just I was in fear, for what might happen. And if you're in fear of someone,
Mm-hmm.
you've got to get out.
Yeah.
That's all I can tell you, is that you have got to get out, because life is so much bigger and sweeter and better than being scared. And so I was just surrounded, in this friend's home, until I felt comfortable going to my apartment again.
Mm-hmm.
But I was in their home. Sometimes we would just sit at their table, and I would cry, and we would talk. And of course, my parents were fantastic, and
Mm-hmm.
it was more just kind of talking, and a lot of words of affirmation were spoken over me at that time.
Mm-hmm.
um, and then again, fitness is going to insert itself right in here again, because I went right into, a friend suggested, hey, why don't you train for a half marathon? So I just jumped right in, and
Oh,
I had
nice.
never
Yeah.
done a half marathon, and so I'm like, well, why not? Okay. And so I signed up for one, and I spent about 4 months training. And that was something that, um, I learned then, and it's still true, that um, exercise is monumental in helping your body to process emotion, and to work through anything that you're working through, not just physical
Mm-hmm.
stuff, but a mental and emotional, all kinds of release. And so, um,
Yeah.
that planted a seed there for what exercise could really do in somebody's life, and I credit that with um, being almost like a saving grace in my life.
Thanks again for sharing about that.
Sure.
And so it sounds like um, your friends and family were a huge part in transitioning and just loving on you, speaking words of affirmation over you, and just surrounding yourself with positive people and people who love you. And it's like that was a big transformation in your life. And then you mentioned fitness and in your journey starting
Yeah.
there, and which we're going to dive into in just a little bit.
Sure. Okay.
But you mentioned running and how that, you just signed up for a half marathon on a
Right.
whim. And I think that's awesome. And you just started training, and you mentioned how, running can be like, an outlet for you to like just allow you to process those emotions
Yes.
and to just kind of withdraw and relieve stress. And I think, I can relate to that a
Oh
lot.
yeah.
And, I like to run too. And a big part of it is for that reason too. And, yeah, I feel like, yeah, a lot of people like don't understand, like, because they haven't tried it before. Like
Hmm.
running can really provide that for you.
Absolutely.
It's an amazing outlet. So I can speak as a testament to that too.
Yeah.
So yeah, I appreciate you sharing that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And
Absolutely.
so you were able to get out of that relationship,
Yes.
and to start your fitness journey.
Yes.
And so what kind of happened next?
So from there, life continued on, and then, again, it was do exercising, working, and living, and rebuilding friendships, and kind of everything went swimmingly. Eventually, but then in September of 2013, I my parents had gifted me a trip to, at the time it was associated with the show The Biggest Loser. It was the Biggest Loser resort in Utah, and
Awesome.
so they hooked me up with that trip, and so I traveled out there. I traveled to Utah. um,
So were you on the
I
show?
no, no, I went to a casting
Okay.
call for the show one time,
Oh,
and
awesome. Yeah.
but no, I wasn't on the show. They had just
Okay.
licensed the resort. They had bought
Okay.
into the licensing to be
Yeah.
promoted. That's how I found out about this place.
Gotcha.
And so
Yeah, I used to, a little side note, I used to I watched probably like 5 or 6 seasons of The
yeah.
Biggest Loser. It was one of my favorite shows. It was so
Oh
awesome
yeah.
just seeing like all the hard work being put in, like huge transformations happening, like
Absolutely.
breakthroughs, like
Yes.
not only physically but mentally,
Oh
and
yeah.
just like it was hugely positive, and I think had
Yes.
a big impact on a lot of people's lives. And so yeah, I love that show. So
I
just a little side note.
no, I loved it.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, the first season or two, I would eat ice cream. I would watch the show and eat ice cream, and then I think, well, I probably need to stop doing that. So eventually I did, and then, but yeah, so then
Yeah.
so
And then you were out
then I
there.
was out there, and there is no ice
Yeah.
cream at the resort. So, but there, it's very similar to the show. I mean, you work out like 6 hours a day, and it's 1,200 calories, 1,200 delicious calories, and it's very
So they had
structured.
you like on like very strict, like they gave you the food to eat, like
Yes,
only eat this amount. Like it
yes,
was like that.
yeah, it
Okay.
is very
And
specific.
what was like the physical activity like? What kind of stuff were you
Sure.
doing?
So you hike for 2 hours every morning, and then you would come back, and there were lectures. They would lecture on nutrition and lecture on personal development type things, and mindset is huge. You know that. I know you know that.
Hmm.
So a lot of
Yeah.
it's all about changing your mind. The
Yeah.
battle of weight loss is primarily in your mind. So
Yeah.
first and foremost, but there was a lot of that, and then you would have fitness classes, everything from yoga lattes to pool water aerobic classes, and oh goodness, AMRAP, and boxing and boot camp and just about everything. It's a great way to jump in and expose yourself to a lot of different kinds of working out,
Yeah.
especially
That
when,
sounds
yeah,
fun.
when you're overweight, you're too scared to try it. So,
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah. And so how many hours a day would you say that you were doing between like like the mental training that you're talking about,
Hmm.
as well as the physical training, how many hours a day were you doing
Oh my
things
goodness.
like that?
Yeah. So your day started, you did an hour stretch class at 6 a.m. And
Yeah.
by the time you finished dinner, it was, dinner was at 5:30 p.m.
Hmm.
So I would eat dinner and crawl in my room, shower, and go to bed
Okay.
most of the
Yeah. I'm
time.
sure you were exhausted.
Yeah,
Yeah.
everybody's exhausted. But the longer you're
Yeah.
there, the more you realize I can do this. You really can. The body can
Yeah.
sustain this kind of effort. So,
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure there was a period of time, like the first couple weeks are probably the worst, and then your body
Yeah.
started to adapt a little bit.
Absolutely.
I'm sure it was still extremely hard the whole time, but
Absolutely.
yeah, and I really liked how you mentioned like how the mental side of things is a big
Oh,
part
yeah.
in weight loss, and how much time you guys spent
Hmm.
on that, and obviously that shows too like how important that is, and um, like what are some things that like stood out to you that you learned there? Maybe if you don't mind sharing a little
I
bit.
don't mind.
Yeah.
I think so. This was I've been back, but so the first time in
Yeah.
2013, the big thing that I remember from then is, one, how little food you really need. Like 1,200 calories doesn't sound like much, but it is enough to sustain human life. It really is.
Yeah.
But I also learned that it's the quality of calories that go,
Hmm.
you can eat a 300 calorie candy bar and you're
Yeah.
going to burn out in like 20 minutes. But if you
Yeah.
eat like some vegetables and a protein and some fat or something, it's 300, 400 calories. That's going to sustain you for hours. And that's
Hmm.
really, um, that was instrumental. I didn't always stick with it. I'm human. So, but it's when you get yourself into that mindset and realize it's quality over quantity, uh, it's huge. I mean, it really comes down to food. As much as I love fitness and exercise, and
Hmm.
it really comes down to that 80% fitness or 80% nutrition, 20% fitness. Unfortunately, because I'd rather just work
Yeah.
out. I love to
Yeah. Yeah.
exercise. So,
No, I think that's completely true. And like the phrase that says like you can't out train a bad diet, right?
yes.
I think that's true. I mean, maybe you can if you're doing like an extensive,
Yeah.
like huge amount of like running or something. But yeah, I mean, yeah, you still gotta nutrition is by far the biggest part when it
No,
comes to weight
it
loss for
makes
sure.
me so sad. But yes, you're right.
Okay, so
Hmm.
you're at the Biggest Loser
Yes.
Ranch
Yeah.
for a while. How long were you
I was there
there?
for 4 weeks.
4 weeks.
Yes.
Okay. And did you have a big transformation in those 4 weeks? Like what kind of happened? Like what was your progress
I
like?
didn't know I lost 20 pounds in 4 weeks
Oh,
while I was
nice.
there. And
Wow.
yeah,
That's 5 pounds a
oh
week. That's
yeah. And
incredible.
a lot in
Yeah.
inches. I lost inches. That was the big thing is, when you pack
Yeah.
on muscle, you can weigh a little bit more, it'd still be smaller.
Hmm.
So, yeah. So, was
Yeah.
very, very, very pleased with the results. So,
Hmm. Okay.
yeah.
And then so those 4 weeks are up, the Biggest Loser Ranch,
Yeah.
and then what happened next?
So the other I always when I intro myself about going to Biggest Loser, I always say, I went and I lost 20 pounds, but I eventually gained a husband. So, because
Yeah.
I met my husband Chris there. I had traveled
Hmm.
there from Missouri, and Chris had traveled to Utah to Biggest Loser Resort,
Hmm.
from Virginia, and so
Yeah.
we met day one, and just we had this incredible friendship and connection, and we hung out together a lot. We were in classes together, lectures together, we ate every meal together. And so after 4 weeks together, we knew it was something, but what was it? Because we
Hmm.
had real lives to go home to.
Hmm.
So he flew home and I flew home, and it took 3 days because I didn't know what would happen. But I'm a girl, so of course, I wanted to know what it all meant. Where's this going? What's happening?
Hmm.
And he was not of that kind of person. And so, but after 3 days, he called, and
I think most guys can like relate to that, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
What does this
Yeah.
mean? Where's this going? And
Yeah.
oh, he was very no. But
Yeah.
after 3 days, he called and he said, "I think you should come to Virginia for a visit." And so I did. I with the next week, I was on an airplane and flew to Virginia to see him and see where he lived, and
Yeah.
that
That's actually pretty quick.
it
3 days and he
yeah,
called you and invited you to Virginia.
that's
Like
right.
that's yeah, I would say that's not a hesitation. That's
No,
he already knew before he left.
I knew and committed,
Yeah.
but it was harder to get him to come around. But the Lord works in mysterious ways. So,
Yeah. So I knew Chris before he went to Utah in
yeah,
2013, and
yeah.
like I knew he was going there, and it's I don't think he went there expecting that he was going to find a wife. I don't think that you went there, thinking maybe that you were going to find a husband.
Michael,
And
no.
it's just crazy how that worked out. Like you went for your own like personal transformation, and
Yes,
that definitely happened.
yes.
But then something even greater came from that,
Yeah,
and that's an awesome story. And
yeah.
yeah, so like, can you just tell us a little bit, maybe more, like what happened? Like, this is a
Yes.
cool story. We want to hear a
Yeah,
little more.
absolutely. So I
Yeah,
want to preface it by saying I absolutely did not want to find it. That wasn't even on my mind. I didn't even take a
yeah,
hairbrush. I mean, I
yeah,
had no cute clothes, all the girl stuff that fix your hair, do this. I had none of
hmm,
that. I mean, I was there to work out. He was there to work out.
yeah,
Uh, so but we each went home and I came to visit, and then I came back to visit for Thanksgiving that year and got to spend a little bit longer time. He came to Missouri and saw me. We dated cross country and flew back and forth, and then some people know it, but most people don't know that the foundation that God had set so many things into motion with our
hmm,
relationship long before we ever even knew we wanted to meet somebody, and especially long before we ever met. He had put me
hmm,
into a job that could transfer me from Missouri to Virginia. And so that's what happened in January of 14. We were both a little bit older and we knew that we didn't want to date forever. And so what
hmm,
is this? Where's this going?
yeah,
So he asked me to consider relocating. I mean, obviously getting an apartment near him so we could
yeah,
date and get to know each other and see if there was really something, because
hmm,
when you're flying back and forth, our life was like a movie there for a little while with
yeah. It sounds like
it was
it.
very fun. And it would be like you're walking into these dream sequences and the nice
Hmm,
dates and sweet walks along the beach and things like that. And so what was real life going to look like, right?
yeah, yeah,
So, but I did. I flew out here in January of 14 to Virginia and went in and talked to my company that I worked for
yeah.
in Missouri. They had a location here. They were able to transfer me. I didn't even have to interview.
That's
they're
amazing.
like,
Yeah,
we just wanted you to come in so we could meet you and welcome you to Tidewater. And so, I went from not knowing to I had a job and we found me an apartment and I
yeah.
relocated in February. So, yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah. So, how much time passed between when you went to Utah, not expecting any of this to happen, right?
Right.
And then you say, you know what, I'm gonna move to Virginia for this guy.
Right.
And like, and people welcoming you and you finding a job, and like
Right.
that's a big life change
Yeah.
in a sounds like a short period of time. How long was that?
It was so we met at the end of September of 13 and I moved to Virginia in February. So October, November, December, 4 or 5 months.
5 months.
Yeah, it was very
Yeah.
quick. My
Yeah.
friends, my boss, my family, that were all very, what is this? And I'm like, I'm just going to trust that there's something here,
Yeah.
and we had an escape plan too. So Chris, I mean, Chris. Chris always has a
Hmm.
plan B and a backup
That's right.
plan and a contingency
Exactly.
plan. So
Yep.
so we had an exit strategy if it didn't work out.
Hmm.
He had guaranteed that hey, I'll move you back home. I'll move you anywhere you want to go if it's not going to work
Yeah.
out. So we had that lined out before we even knew what was going to happen. So but yeah, friends were very concerned at first. Everybody loved him. Uh, it's
Hmm.
hard not to, but
Yeah, no,
you
he's an
know,
amazing guy.
yeah, but it was
Yeah.
just what are you doing? And so, but it, you know, it all worked out. And so it was just something I knew, like I've always trusted my gut about things. And it was something I knew I had to try, that I would regret it if I didn't.
Hmm.
So, so I just jumped in, and the net showed up. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that's awesome. That's a, yeah, the big testimony to just like to if you feel like it's right to go after it
yeah,
in faith and trust. And
yeah.
so, and obviously it worked out for you guys because you guys got eventually got married,
We
right?
did. So
Yep.
yeah, we got married in October of 2014. We did. We got married actually 1 year to the date that, or to the day that we left Utah the year before.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Was that planned?
Not really, but once I
Not really. It
realized
just
it,
happened.
I'm like, oh, meant to be again.
Yeah.
So, and
Yeah.
I want to
I was there
say,
at the wedding. It was
yes, you
amazing.
were.
Yeah.
And you and Haley were
Yeah.
still just dating. It was so sweet.
Yep.
So,
I know.
but I just want to say too that there was a lot of prayer that went into that. I mean, you know, that I
Hmm.
didn't just trust myself. There was a lot of faith, and there were a lot of signs along the way that God had this planned for me and for us. So,
Hmm.
yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. And so, yeah, you guys got married in 2014.
Yes.
And then, so what happened next after you guys got married?
So we got married, and you know, just had the fairy tale wedding. It was beautiful, and we had so much fun. I mean, our life still to this day is so fun. But we were both a little bit older, and so we jumped right into we wanted to have a family. And so we just started in with going to the doctor, just trying to see where we were health wise as
Mhm.
far as starting a family. And there were some issues, and
Mhm.
so we started some infertility testing and procedures, and then um, at the end of January in 2015, my grandma passed away, and so it was kind of like the big first thing that happened. My
Mm.
grandma passed, and then 5 days later, my father passed.
Oh man.
Um,
Yeah.
so I was kind of a zombie there for well over a year, about a year and a half, because we had.
So within 5 days, you lost your grandmother and your father.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
It was
Mm.
after my grandma's funeral. It was so just insane. Like we got a phone call right after her funeral that my dad had passed away, and
Oh man.
so it was. I don't know. Kind of went numb for quite a long while there, and then you know,
Hmm.
but you have to keep going,
Yeah.
and so we were still pressing forward on the testing for, you know, infertility testing procedures, and that went for 7 months, and I finally you know, and it's hard, but I share it because it's important for anybody that's in that. We decided for us that we were going to stop. It was hard on my heart. It was hard on both of our
Hmm.
hearts. And
Yeah.
we just decided to be grateful for our life and to be thankful for what we had, and to not go any further with medical intervention. And I think if you're committed to it and want to press forward, I think it's great. I think it's fabulous. I just couldn't.
Mm.
My little heart couldn't take it anymore, and
Yeah.
so it was a lot of living and dying by test results every month, and just
Yeah.
I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, I mean, that's a lot on your heart just in itself. And then on top of losing, your
yeah,
grandmother and your father
yeah,
in that time too. And that's
yeah,
just, I mean, that's a lot of, tough times, one right after the other. And,
yeah.
it's a short period of time. And like, how did you, like you said, your heart was hurting. Like, how did you get through that time? Like what enabled you to keep pressing forward and to get through those, repeated hard times?
Yeah, I think during that time I dug into a lot of worship music, and I also
Mm-hmm.
I went to the gym. I wasn't making any progress on weight loss,
Mm-hmm.
but I got in there and at least kept moving. I just kept going. I wanted to sit down and just give up a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And there were days and probably some weeks spent on the couch in fuzzy pants, and you know, but uh, I knew that
Yeah, I
if
mean, I think it takes time to
yes,
process, right?
yeah,
You
yeah,
have to have that processing
yes,
time.
I had
Yeah.
to process it, and had to dive in and handle my father's estate. So
Hmm.
I just kept moving. I just kept going.
Yeah.
I would just I didn't always want to, but I just got up and kept going every day. And again, I just have to say that it was family that kind of circled around
Hmm.
and kept me, I don't know, kept me going in a way that when you don't have strength and you have people to lean on, and that's
Yeah.
kind of what
Hmm.
happened. And then I think it was December of 15 when I met you. I mean, I already knew
Yeah.
you,
Yeah. We knew
but
each
I
other. Yeah.
wasn't I think that was like the culmination of the year was getting
Hmm.
started at FFP, and I
Yeah.
think that was in 15 if I'm not mistaken. And I
Hmm.
just knew that there had to be something else that would make me feel strong inside, and that's
Hmm.
you were kind of like an answered prayer. So
Hmm. Yeah. So again, you
yeah.
kind of similar to what happened, earlier, with the relationship that you were in,
Mhm.
previously.
Mhm.
You saw kind of the same kind of thing happen where you're able, in that tough time, you're able to surround yourself with your family and friends who loved you and
Yeah.
helped you get through that time, and also you leaned on fitness a little bit. Is
Yes.
that is that right?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah, 100%.
awesome.
Yes.
Yeah. And then so we started training together at FFP and at the end of 2015.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but I'm just going to say it anyways. Like you and Chris were like one of, if not my most favorite clients of all times. Probably
well,
my favorite. I'm just
well,
going to go ahead and say it. You're my favorite.
you
Yeah.
you know
Uh,
you know how we feel about you. We're just so. But I know that one of my greatest joys was embarrassing you. That was one of my most favorite things. If I could say something or do something that would make your face turn red and embarrass you, it was like the highlight. So, but you
yeah.
taught me
Yeah.
so much. I mean, you
I
know
mean,
that. So,
yeah, yeah. I mean, you and Chris, I loved like you guys would come in there and you would be ready to like get after it. You were ready to work hard and like
absolutely.
that in itself, I just love that. I'm like, I just want people who can come in and just they're ready to work
Oh
hard. And you
yeah.
guys did that.
Oh
But then
yeah.
on top of that, we had so much
Oh,
fun.
so
Like
much
you
fun.
guys you guys know how to work extremely hard but have fun at the same time.
Oh
And
yeah.
we're like there were so many nights in the gym it was just us three
Yes.
and turn it, cranking the ACDC
Back in black.
and yep, lifting some heavy
Oh
weights,
man.
joking around.
Oh
It
yeah.
was so much fun,
It-
and yeah, I loved it. So,
those those are like major highlights for both of us, and especially
uh huh,
the old gym. We just loved it. And then we had the windows. There was always somebody out front for Chris to yell at, and
that's right.
I mean, it was just we had that was like the time of our life in there, and we loved it. It was like some of the most
Mhm.
painful things I've ever done. I still don't like the Bulgarians or the Romanians, but
Not many people do. Yeah.
but yeah, just like great times of our life spent in that
Hmm.
gym. Yeah.
Yeah, and then so eventually, you started to coach at FFP, right?
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
and so you did that for almost 2 years, I
I
think
think
it was.
so. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a little while. And you coached in the mornings, and I loved having you there. Everybody loved you, and um, so yeah, it's just your progression, in your fitness journey from getting started at running a half marathon,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Training for that, and then working on FFP, becoming a coach,
Yeah.
and like just tell us a little bit more. Like I know how much like you love fitness. Like
Yeah.
just tell us a little bit more like about maybe about why you love fitness so much and like what is meant to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've always said this, and I'm sure some great person said it first, but you know, when you're strong physically, it pays off across the board, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, everywhere. And so there's just something about, picking up a heavy weight or going for a run or something that it does something on the inside. And it just, for me, in those hard times, because I've crashed into the valley more than once, and, been through depression before and anxiety. And I have worked through those things because
Hmm.
one, I think the movement of your body, it just, it helps your body process what you're dealing with and what you're feeling. But two, it's just that feeling of alive, like, you can't breathe and you're straining to lift
Hmm.
something, and you realize that, hey, I'm still here, and all I have to do is just keep going, and I can
Yeah.
get through this. Life doesn't always look like what we think it's going to, and it sure doesn't always turn out the way that we plan it. But
Hmm.
if you can just keep going, it has a way of working out kind of the way God intended for it to work out.
Yeah.
I hope that's a good answer. That's
Yeah.
that's
No, no, no.
just that's just what it means to me, and I got certified as a trainer a long time before I ever worked in it, because
Hmm.
I that's my heart and soul, my passion, my
Yeah.
purpose is, when you do these things and it makes you feel this way, you want to give that to others. And I'm sure that's your
Yeah.
heart and soul too. You want
Yep.
others to feel, hey, I'm strong, I could do these things.
Yep.
And it helps you, it doesn't just help you in the gym, it helps you at work or in your faith
Yep.
walk or in
Yeah.
your marriage, whatever you're doing. It's just
Yep.
it's like a big boost that you can give yourself. And I just think
Exactly.
it's
Yeah.
like the greatest thing in the world. Like, you can do this for yourself. You don't even have to pay any money. Not really. You can do a lot of things
No.
on your
Go
own.
outside and yeah.
Yeah, just take off,
Yep.
just
Go
run, just
outside,
go
go to a
run.
park, go for a
So
run. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No,
yeah,
I completely agree. That's so awesome. I think, yeah, like you said, fitness, it gives so much more beyond just like the hour or whatever that you're working out. Like it helps, like you said, think clearly, it helps
yes,
like your mood, it helps your productivity, just process things. Yeah. It's just so good for mental health, in my opinion,
absolutely,
too.
absolutely.
And so, yeah. And so, okay, so that was a sidetrack. Sorry
Yeah,
about that, but
you're good.
we're gonna get back to your story.
Yeah,
So you were you were FFP, and
yeah.
so what else was kind of going on in your life at that time?
Uh, Well, I really just life working. I was working and working out, and we were
Yeah.
married and having fun, and I was, like I said, dealing with my father's estate after he passed, and then kind of had this universe moment step in where we were able to get a house in the Outer Banks. So, all those years ago, working at the unemployment office, and I wanted to have a beach life. Like, I was dreaming about that
Mm-hmm.
beach life, years ago. And it kind of came full circle. And I have that beach life.
Yeah.
Have a little place at the beach, and um,
Your prayers were answered on that
prayers
front.
were above and beyond answered. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And so,
Yes.
and that was in the Outer Banks, right?
Outer Banks, yep, North Carolina. So,
Yeah. So I know Virginia peeps know about the Outer Banks, but can you like just give a brief description of what Outer Banks is like to the people who are listening in California and on the
sure.
West Coast? Because like I went there every year, every summer
Yeah.
growing up because it was only like an hour away.
Hmm.
It's such a cool place. So
Yes.
you living there, you have a little bit more experience. Why don't you share what Outer Banks is like?
The Outer Banks. So, the Outer Banks for me, it's like small town, country, but it's the beach. And it's every good thing that you want about the beach. It's beautiful beaches, and it's the beach lifestyle, like fun little places to go listen to music and play putt-putt golf, and just chill out, just get
Yeah.
outside. There's beach yoga in the morning, or paddle boarding, and just all of these fun things. And there's even I mean, you could go there's a nature preserve down there where you can go for a hike.
Yep.
It's like the one mountain on the Outer Banks, but
Exactly. Yeah.
it's not
Yeah.
huge, but you can hike. And
There's some big sand dunes.
yes, yeah, Jockey's
Yes.
Ridge.
Yeah.
I call that beach
Jockey's Ridge. Yep.
hiking, and so
Yeah.
yeah,
That's right.
I love that too. And it is unlike any place I've ever been, and I've been to a lot of different beaches in my life, but it's just everybody has a southern accent down there for the most part,
Yeah.
or at least the
Yep.
locals do, and it's
Yep.
just in the summer it gets huge with so many tourists, but
Yeah.
from October to March, it's just it's
Hmm.
just small town, and it's come back full circle again for me in that
Yeah.
loving that small town side where you
Yeah.
kind of know who your neighbors are, and you
Hmm.
can go to the grocery store and see the same people, and
Yep.
it's just it's a very sweet place to be, and there's also a
Yeah.
lot of history there too. So
For sure.
yeah,
Yeah. And even like you mentioned in the summer, it gets really busy, a lot
yeah,
of tourists, but like you can still find those places where there's nobody, right? You can
absolutely.
still, if you go far enough down on the on the handle
Oh
there,
yeah,
some of those remote places, like
yeah,
you can still find that getaway. And like
yes.
it's a unique place too, because it's like it's only how many miles wide? It's like, do you know?
Oh,
Because there's
it's
water on both
yeah,
sides.
it's only, I mean, maybe two. I mean, where we are, where our house
Yeah.
is, I don't even think it's 2 miles wide.
Yeah, so
It's
you can go. You got beaches on both
yes,
sides, or houses on more on one side, but then you have the main beach on the other side. But you can still get water on both
yeah,
sides, and
absolutely.
so a lot of water sports take place down there too.
Oh
And
yeah.
like you mentioned, still lots of hiking even on the beach. Those sand dunes are tough. Have you ever ran sprints or anything on the sand dunes?
Well,
Those are hard.
that's crazy talk. No, I have not. But I've hiked them. I mean, I've hiked those
Yeah,
lots of times, just trying to get that calorie
uh,
burn. And
they will
yeah,
wreck you.
they
Yeah,
do, and I love it, especially when it's summer. You're out there baking and in the sun, and it's good. It's very good.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's an awesome place. So yeah, so you guys got a house down there,
we
and
did.
you still have that, right? You
We
still
do.
down there.
Yep.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so you got that beach house that the beach living that you've always wanted,
Yeah.
and that's so incredible. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so what happened? What was you got the beach house, and what else happened? What happened next?
We also rescued two dogs, and so we have two Boston
Yeah.
Terriers, and uh, just a lot of living. I mean, we have been since then. We got the house in 2016, and so we go to the beach and we play with the dogs and we hang out and see friends, and you make a life, and uh, you just live your life. We've had a really good
Yeah.
time since then, and got to coach with you, and
Yeah.
that was definitely a highlight for me, and got to coach my own clients like after FFP closed down, and
Yeah. Hmm.
been working with them, and then something I really haven't shared this with hardly anybody, but about a year and a half ago, kind of the catalyst for this whole last year happened
Hmm.
about a year and a half ago. I have always had trouble with my ears hearing, and just
Hmm.
always. And so I've been teased so hard about, like, not being able to hear and this and that. And it turned out, I went to an ear, nose, throat specialist and then an audiologist, and you know, I have massive nerve damage in my ears. And so
Mm.
I got hearing aids. And so I'm kind of telling on myself because not many people know. There's only
Yeah.
a handful that know. I had to get hearing aids about a year and a half ago. And,
Mm.
and again, my only lifeline during that time, because I went into a huge shame spiral. That wasn't depression. That was just, I felt so much shame for that. And it wasn't anything I could help. I didn't do
Yeah. Yeah.
anything,
Something. Hmm.
but kind of went off into that for a while, and kind of stopped exercising for a while, and then
Hmm.
yeah, and so that's kind of where everything took place with this last year, with everything that happened this year for me.
Okay. And
Yeah,
then so you said you kind of fell off fitness a little
yeah,
bit, but I know that you've been um, active a lot recently,
yes.
and I've seen some amazing progress. So
Yeah,
something took
it
place
did.
that between where you were then and where you are now. So tell
Yes.
us a little bit about that.
So yeah, so in March of this year, in March of 2020, kind of around the same time as COVID. um,
Hmm.
so Biggest Loser Resort actually became Movara Fitness Resort, after they parted ways with licensing with the show. They ran a contest on social media, and you submitted a video as to why they should pick you for a 16-week experience to come spend 16 weeks in
Mhm.
Utah and work out and change your life. And so, I saw that as a lifeline again. So I'm like, okay, this is fitness related. Fitness has always worked for me before. So
Yeah.
I submitted a video, and this I started praying that I would win this 16-week experience. And then it hit
Mhm.
me how long 16 weeks was. I'm like, that's
Yeah.
4 months.
Yeah.
And so then I changed my prayers, and I'm like, God, I really want to go. But can we just find a way so I can go for 4 weeks? Can we just find a way?
Yeah.
And they were only giving away
That's a
one.
long time to be away from
Oh
home.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah.
long time. So, and it's so
Yeah.
far. It's 2,300 miles. So,
Yeah.
and so I just started praying for 4 weeks. All I want is 4 weeks.
Yep.
Can you find a way? And they were just giving the one prize away. But then in May, I submitted the video, and weeks went by, a month went by, and you just wait and you think, well, they've forgotten about the contest, or they didn't pick me. And then out of the blue, they called and said, well, we're creating a second prize. And then they offered uh, a 16-week experience, but it was doing 4 weeks on campus, 8 weeks of Movara home. They were launching a new home program, and then 4 more weeks in Utah. And I, how when you pray for something and you get it
Yeah.
and you get it
Yeah.
even better.
It sounds like it. Yeah.
It was like lightning and thunder.
Yeah, that's so
So
awesome. Yeah.
it was kind of crazy. But
Mhm.
yeah, so I got to go, and with COVID and everything, I ended up being there in Utah for 3 weeks, home for 7, and then I
Mhm.
went back for the final 6, and then we extended our stay and stayed in the area for almost another week. But so I ended up with
Nice.
9 weeks at Movara, and yeah, it's
That's so
changed
awesome.
everything. So
Yeah, that's so awesome. Like you're like, I don't know if I can do a full 4 months. Is
right.
there any other way? God, can we meet somewhere in the middle? I want to go, but
Yeah.
and then boom, right in the middle, he
Here you
gave it to
go.
you.
Here you go. It is still the strangest feeling. Like, there's no rhyme or reason as to why they did it, and they will even
Yeah,
tell you. Like, I knew, you know, the general manager at Movara now. She was a guest there when Chris and I were there in 2013. Like, so we knew each other, but not really well,
yeah,
but we knew each other, and
yeah,
she will even tell you, there's we just felt compelled. And so you
yeah,
just never know
yeah,
it, how things will show up for you. But if you believe, I guess if you believe and you keep going, then amazing things can happen. And it did. And
yeah.
it was a whole thing of sharing stories on social media. So there's a
Hmm.
lot. I did a lot of posting. I did way more posting on social media in the last six
Yeah,
months than I've done in my life, I think. But yeah, it was just a tremendous opportunity, and got to meet a lot of incredible people. And it's all on social media for everybody to go back
yeah,
and see
yeah.
for all eternity.
Yeah, I was following along on your stories. It was
Yeah.
so cool to see. You go through that process, and
Yeah.
it seemed like you made a lot of progress in those.
Yes.
4 months.
Yes.
Like what kind of happened? What kind of progress did you make?
Yeah, so in my commitment with them, I did a couple of weeks prep work before I went.
Hmm.
We did, a few weeks, but all in all, in the last like 5 months, I'm at about I've lost 45 pounds, and
Wow.
so
Yeah.
went from just always wanting to be a runner. That, like, I trained for
Hmm.
that half marathon and then I quit.
Yeah.
So it's like,
Hmm.
you got to keep going. You used to tell me all the time,
Hmm.
consistency, consistency.
That's
I
right.
finally get it.
Consistency is key. Yeah.
It only took me 6 years to get it, but yeah. So now I can run again, and
That's awesome.
it's just it just again it plants new seeds in your life and in your mind, and I've got some long range plans and goals now that are starting to
Yeah.
take shape with this, and
Hmm.
wanting to get back into giving. I really, training wise, I don't know how I want to do that, but I know that I want to give that gift to others. So I don't know what that
Yeah.
looks like yet, but it's just phenomenal, and it's cemented now.
Hmm.
Between you and Movara, I finally get it.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen your fitness journey for the last 5 years now,
Yeah,
and like I've just I mean I can attest to how hard that you've been working, and like
yeah,
just the progress that you've made, but also just like you're saying, like the things that you've learned and that you're now able to then pass along and help
yeah,
other people. Like I love that.
yeah.
um and yeah, just is there I know you said you are doing some coaching.
Mhm.
Is that something that you're going to continue doing in the future, or
I
yeah?
I think so. I don't quite know what that looks like, but our garage gym, our garage gym is
Oh
awesome.
yeah,
It's
it is awesome. It's
it's
sweet
bomb.
setup. Yeah.
So I have a
You got
lot of
everything in there.
yeah. So
Yeah.
I have a lot of folks that want to come over and do that, and I'm wanting to put together some type of something for especially for my ladies. I just think
Mm-hmm.
I think ladies forget, the women forget, I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I'm this, I work full
Yeah.
time, and they forget to put themselves on that priority list. And I want to figure out a way to pour into that,
Yeah.
to do something with that on a bigger scale. So I'm trying to figure
Yeah.
it out. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. So if you are a lady in Hampton Roads and you want a coach who has been there, has been through the thick of it, has seen the downs and seen the ups,
Yeah.
and knows a tremendous amount about fitness in that process, like
Yeah.
I just encourage you to reach out to Sarah.
Absolutely.
And yeah, so that kind of brings us to where you are
Yeah.
now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. And so yeah, I just want to say thank you for sharing, but so much. It's just an incredible story, and but before we close, I do want to kind of highlight, like, just from hearing your story, like one of the main themes that I've seen
Hmm.
and heard, and that I think a lot of people can relate to and be encouraged by. And so this is actually from um, I have a quote that I want to read by you,
Oh,
that you said, like, in our pre-discussion before this
okay.
podcast, and I just thought it hit the nail, like, on the head. And
Okay.
so it says, you said, the only constant in life is change, and bad things happen and good things happen, but eventually, if you keep going, you can look back and see and find the blessings, even in the ugliest and most horrible stuff. You see that there were blessings along the way.
Mm,
And yeah, so I think you hit the nail
yeah.
on the head there. I think you can attest to that. And, like, from all your different trials of, your parents being divorced, and then the relationship that you went through,
Hmm.
the abusive relationship, and then the passings of close family members in such a short period of time,
Yeah.
as well as infertility. Just so many times that life has kind of just beaten you down or pushed you against the
Yeah.
wall, and it didn't seem like there was a way to get out and to keep pushing forward, but you did. And then, you know sometime later, sometimes it's shorter, sometimes it's longer,
Yeah.
you can look back and you can see that even through those hard times, that there were blessings, and they led to, somewhere in your life or
Yeah.
someone that were
Yes.
a huge blessing. And so I just think, that's a common theme in your life, and just like something for a lot of people to remember and just be encouraged by, no matter, like, what kind of hard times you're going through, or going to go through. Like, there's going to be blessings through that, and God is always there,
Yeah.
and he's
That's,
always present,
oh,
and he's
yeah.
always working for your good and for his
Yes.
good, and he has the greatest plan. So
That's
um
true. It's so true.
yeah.
Yeah.
Did you have anything you wanted to add to that, or?
No, I think that's just just keep going. Just, I always say that to folks, you don't know. There's just the next day could be the best day right after the worst day. So just get up and keep going somehow. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, so much, Sarah, for sharing your
Sure.
story.
Of course.
Like, it's a huge blessing to so many people. And
Mm.
before we close, I just want to pray for you for like 30 seconds, if you don't
I
mind.
don't mind. Thank you.
Okay. So, Lord, we just thank you for Sarah and who she is, who you've created her to be, her dedication, her faith, her trust that she's placed in you, Lord, and the blessings that that you've given her and that she's seen as a result of that, Lord. We just pray as she continues to go through life that you continue to strengthen her faith, continue to strengthen her trust, and just continue to work in her life for your good and for her good, Lord. We just pray blessing over her. We thank you for this day. We love you, Lord. Amen.
Amen. Thank you,
Amen.
Michael. That's so nice.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. And so, yeah, thanks again, Sarah.